This is genuinely insane. UFC 325 last night had so many entertaining and ridiculous fights, and we need to talk all about it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. This is MMA 365, the greatest UFC YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe, especially because Alexander Volkanovski has cooked up a three-course meal, and the only way you can get a tasty little bite is if you hit that subscribe button. Thank you. So, first of all, the sun is shining a little brighter today. The birds are chirping. Alexander Volkanovski is still on top. This fight was very entertaining. I thought it was very evenly matched, but I feel like Volk did just enough to win pretty much every single round. There was no point where either fighter was in a ton of danger. The closest it came to a finish for either fighter was Volk was going for a standing guillotine in round two at the very end, but Lopes was able to get him to fall off of his back, which was impressive. Volk was literally on top of him like a backpack. And then I believe in round three, Lopes got a very quick knockdown, but Volk recovered pretty instantly. I didn't even catch it in the moment. I thought Volk slipped, but Lopes did connect right on the button. Volk just powered through and got up. And then it ended pretty comically in round five. I have no idea how they got in that position. Volk was literally straddling Diego Lopes, and that's how the fight ended. And it's a very funny screenshot, but yeah, this is a clear Volkanovski victory. I'm satisfied with this outcome. There wasn't too many moments of like absolute scrapping, but that's because both of these fighters are fairly technically sound and both of them have fairly strong chins, especially Diego Lopes. I have hardly ever seen this man get cracked. So, very entertaining and satisfying main event to cap off a pretty fun card. And the co-main event, Dan Hooker, buddy, what are you doing? Hooker had one way to win, and he was flashing it through the fight. It was keeping it standing. He looked pretty good on the feet, but Saint-Denis was completely outclassing him on the grappling and ground and pound. Saint-Denis had a nice judo throw in round one, took mount and landed some nice ground and pound, and then it was more in the same in round two, and that's what finished the fight. But the only reason why Saint-Denis was in that position to begin with in round two was because Dan Hooker took it to the ground. I have no idea what he was thinking. I mean, the only way that he was going to win that fight was to keep it standing as long as possible, where he did look pretty good, and he got multiple takedown defenses. There's several times where Saint-Denis tried to shoot, but Hooker would shoot for the guillotine. That was working out pretty well for him, and then he completely ditched that in round two and ended up losing this fight. So I came out impressed with Saint-Denis' ground and pound, but underwhelmed with his stand-up game. I think he still has room to improve, but next up, it looks like he'll get a pretty big leap in competition. So I'm curious to see how it works out for him. I'm not sure if he's at that level yet, but at the very least, it'll be a nice scrap. And then the feature fight, Mauricio Hufi got a nice victory over Fiziev. Fiziev, he was landing shots at pretty good volume, but Hufi was very calm and composed. He was fighting like he had no fear of getting taken down, and in a raw striking matchup, he showed his power, landed a very big straight right, got Fiziev wobbly, and Fiziev had a lot of heart. He took it like a champ, but then he fell down again, and Hufi finished the fight with some nasty ground and pound. So good for Mauricio Hufi. I'm glad that this fight was entertaining. I still want to see how well Hufi can do against someone with a grappling base, and lightweight has so much talent at the top that he is going to have to face someone like that very soon, perhaps even next. So I'm curious to see if Hoofy can defend a takedown, because in the Saint-Denis fight, he fought kind of timid because he was seemingly afraid of going to the ground, but when he could fire loose and fire free, that's where he's at his best, and he showed that last night. Taliesin Teixeira and Tai Tuivasa fought in the BMI belt. Both of these guys showed absolutely horrendous cardio. I would like both of them to invest in a treadmill in the near to immediate future. Teixeira won the first 2 rounds convincingly by kind of smudging and holding Tuivasa, who looked kind of like a beach whale lying on his stomach. He could eventually get up, but Teixeira got so much control time that he very clearly won both rounds. And then Tuivasa started swinging in round 3 and got some damage in, wobbled Teixeira at times, but it wasn't enough. Both guys clearly ran out of gas. They fell over as soon as the fight was done. Teixeira literally couldn't stand up even for his interview. I came out of this fight underwhelmed by both of these guys. I thought Teixeira, even though he did win clearly, that he looked extremely hittable. He didn't have very good head movement, and I almost feel like he's too tall for this division, and just in general. He's kind of gangly and awkward, and his head movement is very poor, and with such a big frame, he's a huge target for landing those big punches. And also Tuivasa got in some nice body work. Those body punches, I think, definitely contributed to why Teixeira was totally gassed. And then for Tuivasa, I mean, he very obviously had nothing left. He resorted to clinching when everyone watching knew he lost the first 2 rounds and he needed a knockout to win. But I guess he literally couldn't swing anymore, and he had to clinch and stall. So a bad look for both of these guys. I am concerned for Teixeira because he's probably is going to have to fight up next. And if he goes against someone with actual talent, I don't think that will end up very well for him. But we'll see what the UFC decides to do with matchmaking. And I'll have my matchmaking ideas up probably tomorrow. And then opening the card, Colin Salkild flashed as expected. People forget, man, he has a grappling base. I know he got that highlight reel head kick, and he certainly is a very adept striker, but his main specialty is grappling, and that's what he showed against Jamie Malarkey. It felt like a very respectful bout. Both of these guys are Australian. They're fighting in their home country. There was a level of gravitas among the crowd, I felt, because of that. But I'm all in on Quillen Salkild. I think this guy, he's young, he's very skilled, he gets a lot of highlights, he wins dominatingly. I really want to see a ranked opponent for him next, and I really do think the sky's the limit for him, because he's only 26 years old, which is infancy in MMA terms, so he can get even better from here, and I really could see this guy cementing himself as a contender by the end of this year. Looking at the prelims, Junior Tafa looked good until it got to the ground, and then Billy Elikana got a nice rear naked choke, and Cam Rouston. This fight was closer than I expected. Rouston was a pretty heavy favorite, and he's someone who I think has a bright future ahead of him as well. He came out debuting a mohawk, which is an interesting stylistic choice. Cody Brundage, he landed some nice counter strikes when he was on the back foot, but Rouston was just too big, too long, and he's going to win most, if not all, pure striking battles in the middleweight division. So, yeah, I feel like Brundage's only out really was taking it to the ground, and that never really happened except when Rouston got on top and finished the fight. So, good on Cam Rouston for getting a win. I'll be closely watching what he does next. And then Jacob Malkoun came back from a long layoff and got a good win over Torres Finney. Finney fought fairly poorly, but I do think he blew out something in his leg fairly visibly. I hope for his own sake it's not his Achilles tendon, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard to throw punches with any weight behind them when your Achilles is torn, if that is the case. So, I, yeah, I think this could be the end of the road for Torres Finney for right now. And as for Jacob Malkoun, I mean, he looked better, but he definitely has flaws in his game. He doesn't have a lot of power, so good for him for coming back and off of a long break and showing up in front of his home crowd, getting a win. And then opening it, Jonathan McAuliffe, he beat Oban Elliott on the ground. Oban did not tap. He went out cold when he was getting choked. And yeah, Jonathan McAuliffe, he's someone who I think is pretty clearly a step above Oban Elliott. So I want to see him get a nice leap in competition next. And then on the early prelims, we had some good scraps, but this is something that I need to talk about. It was Khan Ofli got a decision win over Yijia, but this was fairly shocking because I thought Yijia won this fight, and pretty much everyone else I know who watched it did too. And looking at the statistics, Yijia got one knockdown. He credited it, but he probably got more than one. And if you're actually watching it, he outstruck him. He took him down. So I'm very disappointed in the judging for this fight. I thought Yijia won this fight, and something like the road to the UFC, this could cost Yijia a potential bigger opportunity. And looking at the live odds for this fight, you can see here that Yijia basically had about a 90% chance to win throughout round 3, according to the live betting odds. And then as soon as it went to decision, everything just flipped. That fight, unfortunately, left a sour taste in my mouth, but that was at the very beginning, and looking at the card as a whole, I was very entertained. I was concerned going into it that the bouts weren't exactly between the highest ranked fighters in each division. It did feel a lot less loaded than last week's card, but I'd say that the fights delivered more than last week's card did as a whole. So I was very entertained, and I appreciate the Sydney, Australia crowd. They made it a lot more fun. They were very energetic, and it's nice having good fights in front of a very excited crowd. So all in all, I am satisfied with how this card turned out, but let me know what you think, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. Volkanovski cooked up a delicious meal, and the only way you can have some is if you hit that subscribe button. That concludes this video. Thank you for watching.